Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine. I'll be your webinar facilitator today. I'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us for the Leaves Are Full, but Winter is Coming, How to Prepare to be one of the #1 options for consumers searching for heating services this winter webinar. As a brief reminder, all lines are currently on mute to prevent background noise. If you have questions during the presentation, go ahead and type them into your chat box. We'll be happy to answer at the end of the webinar. This afternoon, it's my pleasure to welcome back Jennifer Bagley, CEO of CI Web Group. Jennifer, you may now begin the webinar.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You guys, I know you guys are swamped. It's hot on most of the entire country. And why am I doing a webinar talking about winter smack dab in the middle of August? So here we are. Seasons are kicking off and trying to get everyone to stop and pause for just a minute and think about the next season that's coming, the next major season that's coming. Obviously, we're not talking about shoulder seasons right now. I'm not ignoring those. They are important. However, right now, we need to be planning and prepping for the next major season. This entire webinar is going to be geared towards helping you guys get an idea of what we need to put in place to be able to achieve accelerated results, what kind of logic is needed, what kind of logic is used to be able to compress time, that is, shrink the amount of time it takes for us to achieve success. What are some of the formulas for success? What are some of the common formulas or recipes for failure, and how do we avoid those? And really be able to take that momentary break of working in the business, smack dab in the middle of summer, and work on the business so that when the season does change, we're prepped and ready to be able to get our hustle on and make things happen. You guys, for those of you that have attended before, we have a system, a process, and that system, the 12-step roadmap to achieve accelerated results, is really broken down into 3 primary elements. First and foremost, you'll hear me say over and over again, success requires us to do the right things in the right order at the right time. These are the decisions that we make. They're the tools that we buy into, the software and systems that we use, the processes that we implement or change, the behaviors and mindsets that we carry day to day, and mainly the strategy and tactics that all of those things come together with to be able to either propel us forward and help us get closer to our end goals and results. They keep us right where we are, which means essentially we start falling backward. If the world around you is constantly changing, in order for you to be able to compete in that world, you've got to do the right things in the right order at the right time. We have to see consistent progress, which means we can't stand still. We can't continue to do the same thing year over year over year, even if it's a good thing. We can't stay stagnant and expect to see continuous results and change. The next element of this is doing the right things in the right order. Understanding the dependencies, the predecessors, the interdependencies. How are all of these marketing elements, whether we're talking about branding and marketing, whether we're talking about inbound marketing, becoming a magnet and attracting new opportunities, or if we're talking about outbound marketing, which is more of your traditional advertising, there's a significant difference in between those 3 elements, and making sure that we do those in the right order and that we understand how all of those are relevant to each other and how they either, again, help us move forward towards our goal or pull us away from our goal are going to be critical elements in the overall 12-step roadmap. Next is at the right time. These essentially vary by tactic. So every individual action that you can take from a marketing standpoint has a specific timing to it. And the timing is not one size fits all. I tell my company and all of our team members, that they have, kind of one phrase to use with their customers when they come on board, and it's show me what you're working with. I got to see where you come to the table. We need to know, where are you right now? If you need to give somebody instructions, the first thing they're going to ask is, where are you today? Where do you want to go? And then I can help create a plan and a map to get you there. So when it comes to at the right time, we have to be careful. You guys, I love the fact that you're taking time out of your summer in order to attend training. That's that's a great step in the right direction. Now the challenge is how do we gather all this information? You guys are listening to webinars, you're going to events, there's conferences and trade shows, you have mass amounts of information that's coming to you from all different angles. Some of that information is extremely valuable and relevant right now. And sometimes the information you're getting at a conference may be a complete detour, pull you off track, guide you in a different direction, actually get you in trouble. And that's a tough part for you guys to be able to determine, when is the information I'm hearing relevant to me right now? Is it the right thing for me to do? Is this the time? Is this the right order in order for me to take care of this? Or am I getting excited about something that actually may pull me further from where I want to go? And I don't have a good answer for you guys as far as how to determine that, other than through education and experience, through others' experience. In our world, we focus 99% of all of our efforts are on HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. And so we have so many stories that and data elements that help us guide our dealers through this process. But some of this is the control of yourself. It's you making time, like you are right now, to attend this live event, making time to watch the webinars, which are all recorded and you guys have access to those, dedicating time to stay up with current technology and trends and compliance and where the internet's going, where consumers are going, what devices they're using, how to stay relevant in today's environment, understanding what your competitors are doing. All of these things are important. And then there's the mindset to know, when do I pull the trigger and when do I not? If I don't pull the trigger, how does it detriment the company? And if I do pull the trigger, how is it going to help the business? And these are things that you guys will learn over time as you continue to educate yourself and continue to try and look at every piece of information you receive, you hear, you see, with a logical approach. Really trying to understand how everything is connected. And that's our goal. We want you guys to be successful. We don't just want to throw out a bunch of products and services, have you guys sign up for a bunch of stuff, throw it up against the wall with no logic, and you guys can't measure progress. And that's really what this is about. So as a part of the 12-step roadmap, every element or every step is critical to your success. And today we're going to talk a little bit about each one of those steps and how they're going to be relevant, because you have some time to prepare for winter. If you're not having a great summer, if your summer is average, if you've still got trucks in the driveway, if your calendars aren't packed, if you're not trying to figure out how to hire, then we need to fix that before the next season comes around. And in the digital space, with the competitive layout the way that it is, you need time to make those decisions. You need time to create the infrastructure, and you need time to be able to make progress before the season starts. If you wait until winter to make the necessary changes to excel during winter, you will lose. You'll be looking at the following winter. We're going to be a year and a half away from seeing the results that you want to see. So in today's environment, let's focus first, website and branding. Do you have a brand that is professional? Does it stand out? Is it memorable? I have with me, let me just make sure the audio is working. I have Chris, our Chief Marketing Officer, on the line as well. Chris, can you hear me okay?
I can, Jennifer, definitely.
Fantastic. So I know you've worked with a lot of clients on helping them understand what their brand is, what it means, how to create one, what their buyers perceive, or what kind of persona and how that matters. What would you give them as far as advice to just do a quick checkpoint on, does my brand carry enough weight to move on to the next step and start on making sure I have a website in place? What are your initial thoughts?
My thoughts are, Jen, that I believe that, especially in industries that can be thought of as commoditized, that your brand and understanding of your brand and how it's presented is a critical predecessor to doing a lot of things. And to your point, you do need time to prepare, time to make sure it's organized and know how you're going to represent that brand.
And how much do you think that the consumer's opinion matters? In the HVAC world, there's obviously hundreds and hundreds of options for a consumer. In fact, from a digital standpoint, if you search for HVAC contractor or air conditioner repairman or air conditioner installation near me, it's not 100, it's millions of options that the consumer has available. So how important is it that they understand kind of the demographics of their customer, the thoughts of their customer, and try and mirror that brand more towards the client base they're trying to attract?
So to speak about that, after understanding yourself is understanding your customer, and understanding how you speak to that customer is messaging, and messaging is the eHarmony between you guys. And with so many options, customers have ratings, reviews, other things that they can compare side by side to help them make quick decisions. But having the first step, a brand that can resonate with the customers, understanding your customers' demographics, sociographic, psychographic backgrounds, is the way that you can create that differentiator. And it might not be as obvious to folks that aren't as deep into marketing as you or I, but I definitely like this path of educating customers and teaching them how to identify both themselves and their audience, not just at a high level, but to a very particular, specific level.
Absolutely. You guys, now let's get down to brass tacks. There is a significant difference between a small business, an entrepreneur who's a one-person shop who just started their business, and someone who's at a position to hire a branding company. And there's a big price difference as well. We know branding companies, and Chris and I have worked with branding agencies that have charged enormous amounts of money, $20,000, $50,000, $150,000 to establish a brand. So what we're not saying that you need to invest massive amounts of money into establishing a brand, but we are saying don't do it yourself. We are saying that it's got to have some kind of professional kind of structure to it. When it comes to a brand, it matters. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of dealers who have developed their own logo. When they make their own logo, it's got a white background. It can't be placed on the web. It can only be used on print, or it doesn't work in a vector format. It can't be expanded. It can't be put on a dark background. I mean, there's something to be said for just having a simple, it doesn't have to be expensive, but it does have to be professional brand, because that brand is going to be used every single step throughout the 12-step roadmap. Now, the connection between your brand, obviously it's going to flow into what I consider the necessary evil. Do I love websites? No. It's a hard project. It's a hard process. It's complicated. It never ends. It's constant. You're always building. By the time you build a website, it's already outdated. You have to continue to invest time and energy and money and security. People are trying to attack it on a regular basis. But the reality is, I shouldn't say people, I should say things. But the reality is we have to have one, because it's where consumers convert, because it's where consumers interact, it's where they make their buying decisions. So moving into a website, driving into content and conversions, local reviews, social, and so forth, this is essentially the model. Now, we'll keep going, and I'm going to drive into each one of these, but we want to address some things that I know my business coach helped me. And Chris and I were talking about, we've both built, bought, and sold and ran successful companies in multiple industries, and including helped others do the same thing. And we were talking the other day, and he had said, you know, how many licks does it take to create a successful business? I was talking about my business coach, Tony Jerry. He told me, you know, if I could only get you to do what you already know you should, you would consider me a genius. And there's a lot to be said for that, because in business, we quite often know what we need to do. We know that we need to budget. We know that we need to put time. We know we need a marketing plan. We know we need to create content. We know we need to duplicate ourselves. We know we need to plan on hiring. We know we need to put our business out there. We know we need a professional brand. We know we shouldn't do it ourselves. We know all these things, but entrepreneurs, I tell you, we're some hard-headed individuals. Chris, you talked about If you knew how businesses fail, would you avoid those licks if you
I
knew
would
what not
rather
to do?
do it the smart way than the hard way every time. But as an entrepreneur, a lot of times we become reactive in our business processes and take a lot more on than we should disseminate. And my business coaches as well, they taught me work on my business, not in my business, and let experts handle certain sections. And so, some of the best advice I ever got.
Absolutely. You guys, this is it's hard, especially when you're an expert at your trade. But we have to combat human behavior, and we have to plan for our mindset. We have to frame it. We have to create it. We have to design it. We have to be consciously aware that we don't know what we don't even know we don't know. And that conscious state will allow us to learn. When we come to the table and we're meeting with the marketing, I know that it's easy to have your guard up. You've been burned before. You've had a website, it doesn't work. There's always two sides to the coin. Sometimes it's partially you. Sometimes it's partially the marketing agency or the web design company. But I'll tell you, the best thing you can do is be open to continuing to learn and educate, and knowing that you play a role in your overall success. And quite frankly, whatever you think today, however you think today, whatever you do today, whatever you haven't done today, has you right where you are today, good, bad, or indifferent. So what we need to do is we need to harness the good, figure out how to perpetuate it, and let's make more good. We need to understand the difference between strategy and tactics. And all too often when Chris and I are speaking to groups of entrepreneurs, listening, sometimes it's a lot of talk, it's a lot of discussion, it's a lot of kind of peripheral embellishment of what they've created as their version of the truth. Strategy is essentially your why. Chris, talk a little bit about why and who, where, and when, and why strategy is very, very different than tactics, and why we need to have those separated in our conversation.
This is actually one of my favorite topics, Jen. Tactics is what you usually find at trade booths, what you hear on the phone when people are cold calling. They're selling services that they think are stated needs, such as SEO or pay-per-click or this or that. And those tactics, without really understanding the business, its operations, or the consumer, is pointless. Tactics without strategy is I mean, I could use a lot of analogies, but ultimately strategy ties it all together by understanding why, the buyer, who they are, what kind of mindset is your buyer at what time? What is the best time for that buyer to read a message? Because you could say, for example, I've heard lots of people say, I've tried pay-per-click, it doesn't work. Well, a lot of times if you're spending your clicks buying every click that may or may not be relevant, you may be buying 90% bad fruit. And so with strategy, you make sure that your lead quality can match, or your timing can match the mindsets of your buyers and the seasonality and all of the things that aren't taken into consideration when throwing tactics like gum at a wall.
So you've talked a lot about, and I know you've done a lot of case studies regarding especially weather in this industry. And I think that it's interesting seeing that a lot of pay-per-click plans, when we look at other analytics, that they don't calculate weather. It's not an element in a business that is almost entirely based on weather. What are your thoughts? How is that piece of strategy causing the tactic of investing in pay-per-click not to perform at its highest capacity?
It's about understanding the factors that matter. And if you're a hammer, everything's a nail. And again, going back to the people that are selling tactics, that hammer and nail analogy works very well, taking into consideration weather. I mean, in industries like this, or even travel, like bookings in New York City multiplied by 4x when it's raining. So you want to be running your PPC campaigns when it's raining. So having, like with us, having a full digital team that can programmatically figure out how to tie into the AccuWeather API to increase and decrease your bid budgets based on its most likeliness to perform. I mean, those are factors that will literally multiply your effectiveness of marketing to lower your cost per lead and lower your cost per acquisition.
So, and that's right on point. And I've got 100 examples of where I'll have a dealer or a business owner explain the tactics they've implemented and why they don't work. And the missing element was strategy. I'll give you, and I'm just going to pick a handful because I think they're relevant and you know about these examples. One is when you have someone say, I implemented a pay-per-click and SEO program with a company that's local, but they don't specialize in HVAC. How does the data that that company has or doesn't have, how does being local versus having more of a national or national plus Canada or global knowledge impact their strategic decisions? Why are dealers less successful quite often when they're using a company that's local, not specialized in HVAC, not in a position to be able to see the technical compliance Google algorithm changes throughout a national or international basis? Why, in your mind, does that make a local company at a disadvantage? But the dealer choice is typically based on a level of comfort, and that kind of discombobulated approach, why does it end up not working?
Well, and it's important to understand that geography is a subset of industry, and to think of geography as as your primary pivot for understanding the data is difficult, because it's not really a data-driven decision; it's an emotional-driven decision. Because somebody is local, it offers them the comfort of being able to reach out and touch them if something is not the way that they want it. But it's really more the fear of things not happening correctly that leads them down a bad pathway of choice, where they're choosing somebody who is local more than somebody who is more qualified to achieve the results they're looking for.
And you've looked at one of the things I think that you kind of sat and put yourself in a cave for a few days when you first started with us and went through the amount or the volume of data that we have on HVAC, all the intricacies about it. And I remember you saying, this is outstanding, like to have this much data around a certain particular industry, a certain set of key phrases across such a wide area. What you can glean from that, putting that into different data analyzers, is just going to make the entire process more intelligent. What do you think the advantages of having all of those data sets for a dealer who's trying to understand and have a kickstart to their own marketing program as they move into the new season?
Well, I want to start off by saying that anybody that says that they do know what they don't know, or can't subscribe to the conscious level of thinking that they're aware that they don't know what they don't know, it even extends to us. So if we're looking at data, there may be a data anomaly that we're able to see based on our wide breadth of data gathering and aggregation, that that somebody that just does this for a few select clients or whatever, just they don't have the opportunity to learn what they don't know. So it puts them a little bit at a disadvantage in contrast to somebody who's very, very specific in niche industry and making data-driven decisions and turning anything that's an emotional thought, or I think this would work in my industry, into a structured split test where you're buying 100 clicks of one type or 1,000 clicks of one type and then 1,000 clicks of another. It could be as simple as, blue button versus orange button. But when you don't have that kind of data, you have a lot more guesses to make, right? And so we're very fortunate in understanding the variables that are global, the variables that are local, as well as local to geography, local to demographics, or local to anything like that.
So you guys, I'm bringing this up because I want to help you guys make good decisions. I'm not saying necessarily you've got to work with CI Web Group. There are a handful of extremely talented, experienced, and qualified digital marketing and web design agencies that specialize in HVAC. They know it inside and out. So then it becomes, you guys, instead of making a decision that's an emotional decision based on, are they local? Is this my buddy? Can I get them for free? Is this my office manager's boyfriend? All of these things that actually hurt your company, hurt your business, is let's start with the bar being the baseline that I'm going to work with the most qualified digital marketing agencies in the HVAC world, and then get emotional, then see who do you resonate with, who do you click with, what kind of project management system do they have, what's their communication style, how frequently do you have meetings, what's their contracts, their terms, are you tied into anything? Then you start getting into things that are going to make sense. So we want strategy to be and logic to be more of the infrastructure that drives you. When we talk about timing, there's many different elements of timing. Right now, you've got a decision that's timing. If your competitor or your competitive drawer on Google has 1 million competitive pages in front of you for furnace installation in blank, furnace replacement in blank, furnace maintenance in blank, furnace service in blank, heater installation, heater repair, heater replacement, heater maintenance, heater tune-up, all of these things that are searched for in your next season, if you've got 1 million pages in front of you, the first decision you have to make is, are you going to take the time out of your busy summer to make sure that you're properly set up? Do you have the pages? Do you have the content? Do you have the SEO plan? Do you have the landing pages? Do you have the pay-per-click? Do you have the local directories? Do you have the content to be able to compete 6 months from now, 3 months from now for some of you? And if you're in Florida, keep going after maintenance. So you have some timing to make. But as Chris was mentioning, there's a lot of elements of your marketing plan that require timing to be one of the key factors in your decision making. When do you start? When do you stop? How quickly what kind of buffer time do you need to prepare? If you're trying to get on page 1 of Google and you've got 1 million competitive pages, quite frankly, you should have started last winter, a year in advance of the season. Right now, if you've got millions of pages in front of you, 2 million pages for air conditioner installation in blank, then you should be starting today, right now, or 2 months ago on your plan for 2020 air conditioning season. So that's some of the things you need to think through. Is in order for you to become page 1, number 1 of 2 million other pages, that requires time. You've got preparation time, content writing, optimization, link building, all of these things that are going to help you put there. So that's one element of time. Chris, what are some of the other things like real time, or when it comes to time of the year or day or week or hour that need to be part of the strategic planning process for them right now?
There's a lot of absolute times, and then there's also relative times. So relative would be relative to the consumer and their specific situation, and it's understanding when that specific consumer is wanting to purchase. So timing is a really great pivot, but as you can see here, there's a lot of different perspectives on timing, and I like the poker analogy. If you're trying to win against those 2 million other folks that are also at the table, if you put in the same amount every time and don't really consider where the deck's at or anything else, whether I was going to use poker as an analogy or blackjack, but ultimately it really is about understanding the right time to make your plays and your moves that's going to further you in the game.
You guys, and that's 100% on point, is the timing is going to change depending on the tactic, also depending on the strategy. So if your strategy is to sell a high ticket item, if you want to install ductless air conditioner systems or hot water tanks or high efficiency air conditioner systems or high efficiency furnaces and so forth, right? If your strategy is, I want to sell high ticket items, or if I want to sell e-commerce and I want to sell systems with no service, those are strategic decisions that are going to change your timing because the competitive landscape changes. The deck is different, right? If you want to sell maintenance right now, If you want to sell air conditioner repair right now because you're sitting in Texas and it's 104 degrees and you're sweating, I mean, you got people out there sweating their tails off, then social media would probably be a better real-time way to do that. Now,
Right.
is social media your ideal strategy today? That's going to depend on the decision you made a year ago and a year before that. Did you put social media at the top of your priority list? Do you have the infrastructure in place? Do you have a page built? Is it viewable? Is it visible? Do you have connections? Do you have engagement? Do you have any traffic? What's your Facebook page or edge rank? Every decision you make to budget time, to budget to build, to budget to research, to plan, to budget to implement is going to change everything else. So if you didn't put those things in place, if you don't have a social network, if you don't have engagement, if you don't have a content strategy, then the relevance of timing is different for you. Your deck is different. The playing field is different. If you don't have a compliant website, if your website is old, if it's not compliant, if you don't have content, if it hasn't been optimized, if it's not been updated to Gutenberg 5.0 or WordPress 5.plus or PHP 7, if it's not secure, every single one of the tactics, real pieces of information of show me what you're working with is going to change what you should do next, which means it's hard to come to trainings like this and walk out with, I know what we should do. We should do blank. We're not, Chris and I are not that kind of coach or instructor. We're trying to, just like I know I did with my children, I tried to teach my children how to think, not what to think. So what we're trying to do in this environment is to help everyone process. It's not a one-hit wonder. Right now, what needs to happen is everyone should be doing a complete analysis, down and dirty. We do it of ourselves. We do it of our clients, because there is nothing perfect in this space. Nothing is complete. Nothing is done. There is no project that is complete. There is nothing in your marketing world that you can put a checkbox next to. It's always an open item, which means it constantly has to be evaluated and reevaluated to be able to plan for what's next. And if you guys, part of this also, obviously, season matters. If you're in Florida and you have 9 months of air conditioning season and a little bit of maintenance, that's totally different than if you're in Washington, where you have 4 months of summer, 4 months of winter, 4 months of fall, and 4 months of spring. That's a 25, 25, 25 or quarters. That's totally different. So the location of your business matters. If you're sitting in Toronto, that's different than sitting in Vancouver. These are all things that need to be considerations, and they should be questions. They should be part of the strategic conversations that are taking place internally within your own company and with your partners.
I was looking at data the other day, Jen, and something that I didn't realize, this is an opportunity to learn something I didn't know, was that it was interesting, the amount of time on page that increased around tax refund season. And I never really put together that level of seasonality as well and coupled against it. But we've actually created a couple of, Mandeep and I have created a couple of tests that will help us identify the mindset of the audiences during the tax season. So seeing how
that's interesting. There's a handful of times when you look at time on site when it's 115, 110 heat index in Arizona or Texas or New Mexico, and you look at time on site, it's actually relatively low. You're looking at a second, because when something's broken, you're in Phoenix or Mesa, Arizona, or Southern California in the middle of summer, you need help right now. So you'll typically get a quick bounce because they're converting quickly. Totally agree. And it's interesting to see all those changes. This is exactly what we're looking at. We titled this slide "Perfect the Process," which is almost an oxymoron, because you can't. You can continue to make progress. You can continue to attempt to perfect, but as long as you have a world of quicksand, which is technically what we're building on. You guys are building on quicksand. You're building a business on quicksand. You have technology changing at a rate that has never been seen in our lifetime. You have consumers adopting new technology and strategies and tools and little gadgets and gizmos and gadgets and gizmos day in and day out. You have the internet space, which is full of hackers and intruders that Google is constantly trying to compete with and ensure that they have as limited access as possible. You have competitors that are getting smarter and sharper and implementing things faster and better. You have new generations coming in and changing the landscape. I mean, my goodness. The world we live in tomorrow is much different than the one we live in today, which is significantly different than the one we live in yesterday. And all we can do is know that we cannot stand still.
Right.
We cannot. From technology to strategy to who you surround yourself with, which is your network, that's your employees, your surroundings, your coaches, your advisors. Who are you listening to? Your network matters. Every one of these elements, quite frankly, weighs in on your success. And if one of these elements is off kilter, if your technology's on point, your strategy's on point, your behavior's on point, your mindset's on point, but your network is all messed up, you're in the wrong area, you got the wrong market, you got the wrong employees, you got the wrong advisors, you're done, right? If your mindset is set to fail, if your mindset is set to fear, if your mindset is set to be skeptical, then it's hard to be aware and innovative and excited and enthusiastic. Same thing with behavior and strategy. So each element, we recommend that you take these things and make them part of your core competencies to perfect, to continue to improve, to continue to get better. Because what we know, like I said, it's where we are. You guys, when it comes to the 12-step roadmap, so I'm just going to stop here for a second, and we've got, so look, quick time check. We have about 20 minutes left, and we're going to fly through some data here and information that's going to give you some nuts and bolts as far as the 12-step roadmap and what to consider. We learn constantly. So starting with step one of the things that we learned last year, we implemented for Goodman and Amana and Franklin and Liberty, we implemented frameworks that were pre-configured and developed to be able to help a dealer to be able to move faster, be able to get a website up. If the website only lasts for 18 months to 24 months, why not start with an existing framework that's already pre-designed based on data to succeed? So that's where we went. Now, what we learned in the last year was it's an entirely different process for a dealer that's coming to the table, that's been in business for 10 years, has a handful of trucks, is doing good business, has, not a great position online, but has some content. They have pictures of trucks, they have testimonials, they have some text, they have a logo, they have things they can bring to the table, versus a dealer that's just getting started. Somebody, and maybe they've been in business for a while, but they've ignored or neglected their internet or brand or digital content or digital network. And so what we've done this year is really make a complete difference in between a basic or first-time framework versus a replacement framework. And these are all based on today's requirements. So all the websites we built last year, we technically already, I shouldn't say last year, last season. So in Q1 of this year, we've already retired the framework that we were using in Q1 because the data makes us do something different. You cannot stick in the same place. So the framework for Q3 and 4, quarter 3 and 4 of 2019, for example, these are brand new website frameworks or templates that are based on the data we learned over the last 6 months. And 6 months from now, we will retire these and we will do it again. The other thing that we learned in our world is we're not going to let someone pressure us to do something fast and compromise quality, because everything starts here, because everything is dependent on how well that website is built, how compliant it is, how new, how fresh, how stable, how secure, all of these things. We invented or created a rental website, something that if somebody needs something right now, you're with a company, they stole your website, they took it down, you don't own it, whatever the scenario is, having the ability to rent something while you build something correctly. Sometimes sometimes entrepreneurs kind of hurt themselves because their demand for speed squishes their quality need. Because you can't have both, right? I want it really inexpensive. I want it as fast as possible, and I want it to be the best there is. That logic will hurt you. So that's something that we had to take in and own a solution for that. Is that's fine. If you want inexpensive and you want fast and you want quality, then rent something while we build something good. So, and I'm showing you these because our logic has to continue. Every 6 months we're addressing and looking at what did we do 6 months ago, what was the data, what were the issues, what were the objections, where did we have delays in progress and versus accelerated progress, and how can we mirror accelerated progress continuously. But This right here is where a lot of small businesses, not just dealers, but contractors, small businesses, mid-sized businesses, this is where they usually fail from the gate. Chris, so on everything starts here, and I know we've only got 15 minutes, but just very quickly, we know through a lot of experience from logic to page structure that this is it's the end all be all. If this isn't right, everything else you implement is toast.
Right.
Your thoughts?
So, and just contrasting my experience, which is really versatile and not is industry specific, is the prices that I would charge in what I would white label for the Richards Group, for Level 2 and these other ones. They had to find a unique pathway for each unique customer that was.
Oh, I think I lost his audio. I did? Okay. We'll come back to that. So you guys, everything starts in. I kind of get where
starting from baseline. Yeah, basically this pathway of logic is refined after working on a lot of different websites, but all within the same industry. So knowing the problem patterns, and in the computer science world, we call them problem patterns and solution patterns. But to be able to identify the shortcomings of, okay, you're going to need a rental website. Well, historically and typically, if working for an orthopedic surgeon that needed something up really fast, we would have to develop something for them and come up with all of this stuff on the per that unique individual customer. So what I really enjoy is the conglomerate customers being able to afford the amount of data, the research, and experience that this has turned into for a pathway. And the pathway is different based on the starting point. And the starting point, as Jen so cleverly depicted, has been mapped out from everywhere that we've seen it in this industry. And it seems is what we're looking at right now is the structured lily pad steps on each one of those pathways to success.
That's and that took a lot for us as a company to pause and say that we're going to focus, and we're going to focus on one industry. As exciting as HVAC is, and as easy of a decision as that should be, I'll tell you what's exciting is being brilliant at something and not having to learn every new business from scratch. That's exciting. Exactly. You guys, when it comes down to your website, it's more than your website. It's the logic behind everything you do related to that website, the framework of your website, the design of your website, your servers that you have it hosted on, the hosting strategy, your security strategy, your maintenance or your website maintenance, your server maintenance strategy, your compliance with today's requirements, how quickly you move on those compliance changes, or if you guys get stuck, what the page structure is. And that's what Chris was trying to say essentially, is that in a normal environment, you would be investing mass amounts of money because someone would have to learn all this stuff from scratch versus having a decade of knowledge and data to drive all of the decisions, bring down costs, speed up production so that you guys can compete in a world that would normally be very, very difficult. Next. So we said everything starts here. That is step 1, 2, and technically 3. Everything depends on. So this is your dependency Your positioning. Your office positioning plays a role. If you have an office in a industrial area and you don't do commercial business, you're already at a disadvantage because you have to spend money on marketing in your industrial area, in the city your business exists, in order to gain credence and credibility with Google to be able to extend your marketing efforts and start getting ranked in cities that you don't have a physical location. So right out from the beginning, sometimes the placement of your office is not always advantageous. And so we have to work harder when we have things that are kind of rubbing against the grind. That means we need to put more emphasis, or we need more time, or we need more resources, or we need more budget. Those are realities, they're facts we have to address. Next is local. Those are local directories, local listings, Google business listings, local in your area. Those might be networking organizations, your position in local chambers, conferences, and so forth. What does your local positioning look like? What does your social positioning look like? Again, this is online and offline. What is your SEO or search engine optimization rankings? Where are you ranked? Based on the services you want to sell in the cities you want to sell it. How are your ads positioned? Are they smart ads? Are they focused on the right key phrases, on the right target markets? How well are your trucks, your brand, and so forth, your page rank? Essentially, everything depends on your positioning. What do you want to sell? Air conditioner installation, replacement, service, maintenance, tune-ups, warranties, cost, financing, and so forth. Heater, furnace, heating, heat pump, ductless, IAQ, all of the services, products that you want to sell. Where do you want to sell it? So number one, you have to count your primary city. Wherever your physical office is, whether you want to sell there or not, that's your number one. Your number two is as close to there as possible in the demographics that you have the best opportunity to be able to compete. And then number three, outside of there, we obviously don't want people driving, 20 miles, 50 miles, especially in California traffic. It takes 3 hours to get to an appointment. That's not a good strategy. So it might be the closest, it might be the highest price. You might have an advertising company come in and do I see this constantly. A dealer will hire an ad company that specializes in print, and all they do is start looking at demographics, doing psychographics, looking for the big the big house, picket fence, 2 dogs, a cat, 2 kids, and a certain household income. And next thing you know, they're trying to blanket or market somewhere that's going to cost you a mass amount of money and time and energy unless you put a technician over in that area. So first, what do you want to sell? Where do you want to sell it? Those are strategic decisions that need to be made. One is tactics. That's actually the equipment you guys are offering and the services you're willing. Next is, are you an option? Are you even an option when and where consumers are looking? If I stand in front of any audience and I ask them, what do you guys do when you need something? The entire room, and you can go check thousands of videos I have online speaking in front of audiences, the entire room is going to say, I Google it. So if they Google it, if they look for air conditioner installation in or ductless air conditioner installation in, and they put the city in there near me, are you an option when and where they're looking? And do you look the best when they get there? Do you have the best reviews? Do you have the best website? Are you easiest to connect with, and so forth? Next, everything ends here. Chris, this is something and I wish it was simpler. This is something that it perplexes people on all of the different strategic objectives of acquiring reviews. Getting reviews on your website, what that does to your conversions through schematic markup, all the way to Google business listings and local directories, and having the priority. What would you say to everyone trying to understand, geez, what tool do I use? Why aren't all my reviews just in one location? Why do they have to be everywhere? Why is it so important?
So wow, that's a lot. I'll try to answer it as concisely as possible. But basically, doing reviews and doing reviews right are two different things. If you want credit and association with those reviews, your schema.org markup, aka the invisible stuff you can't see on the page. And Jennifer could probably give you an example by viewing source on a page, but it's this hidden markup code that describes what this page is, and it correlates with your off page. So things, your directory listings,
in different places. Ultimately, Google's goal, if you remember what Google's job is to give the searcher the best possible result that they can get. And who is that? That is who it trusts the most. How does the search engine, a robot, build trust? Well, part of it is identifying that your existence exists in city pages, yellow pages, merchant, just all of these different directories with a level of consistency, consistent phone numbers, email, URLs, etc. all contribute to this invisible factor, a trust factor that Google builds with your site to determine when it displays it. Good. I tried to keep it short.
Yeah, and that's a training. So we'll book that as a webinar. That by itself, we get asked all the time. I have this button on the right-hand side of my website. Those reviews go to this page. What does that do? And then there's a different review us on Google that goes over here. And then there's a different text message that goes out with requests to get reviews somewhere else. Why aren't they all in sync? How come the information doesn't display? I know it's a baffling question. If you have an agency that knows what they're doing, then they're not going to let you cross-pollinate those reviews. They're going to demand that you have different tools and processes and systems in place to be able to capture reviews in different locations. And they're going to want you to monitor those reviews, and they're going to want you to reply to those reviews. This is just a quick example. I want to brag on our dealers. Our dealers get reviews all day, every day. And it might take them the first year or two of working with CI Web Group to change their strategy, make it a priority, to put a board in their office and to start giving away some kind of incentives to their team, and to really, really take a very serious approach with review capture and collection, to start using the right tools instead of whoever, the Podium tool or the Review Buzz tool or whatever tool company sales guy called you to try and sell you another widget or gadget, and really think strategically about what to use. But I just pulled up a quick report. Our dealers are on average, we're rating 4.7 stars. We got 5.2 thousand stars in the last 12 months. And 3.6 thousand of those reviews are coming through Google Business Listing. And this doesn't even capture all the reviews that they have on their website, which I know one dealer, we've got 2,300 reviews showcased in their schema markup, spread out. Now, schema markup, what Chris was talking about, and these review sites, they're changing constantly. The algorithms are changing constantly because Google's trying to get truth, reality. And as web companies and agencies and coders and hackers and everyone else tries to manipulate the system, Google has to change it again. So you can't get frustrated. You can't go into this with, why do I have to redo my website? Or why do I have to redo schematic markup? Or why aren't the reviews displaying? They were there last week. The reality is stuff changes. It's going to keep changing. It's a way of life. So go into it with a smile, just like entrepreneurship. It's the best I can say. Next is conversions. So in an effort of time, conversions are simple. If you don't have conversion tools on your site that work in today's environment, then what's the point? Making sure that people have the ability to chat, they have the ability to schedule, they have the ability to text, they have the ability to call, they have the ability to review, they have the ability to check social sites. All of the things that matter to consumers in today's environment have to be part of your strategy. Every single one of these marketing assets, tools, systems is there to help you figure out what's working. Making sure that you're tracking all of your calls, making sure that you know where your leads and opportunities are coming in, and don't be bamboozled by garbage. So when it comes, this is a real report. These are our local directories. We pulled a batch of customers and kind of spread them all over the United States. This particular report is showing 100 dealers. So we wanted to give you just a quick sampling of what happens. Out of these 100 dealers, about 75% of these dealers, when they started with us, came in and said, I'm already paying for local marketing. I'm already subscribed to local marketing. I'm already subscribed to local listings. I already have a site with Yext. I'm already doing something. Well, here's the thing. Already doing something. This is where we were saying the difference between tactics and strategy. Tactics. I own an account on Yext. Tactics. I signed up with local blah, blah, blah for local marketing. Strategy. Here's the difference. Every single one of the dealers that started with us, regardless of how much, and we've seen dealers spending in excess of $5,000 per month on this, they were still starting from zero. They still were starting from zero. Why? Because they bought software. Software is not going to help you grow. It's a necessary evil, but it's not going to help you grow. The intelligence, the mind, the people, the strategy behind the software is what matters. The difference in this environment, we don't just have the dealers set up on software. They're not just set up with the listing. We just didn't make sure that their name and address was correct. What we do is we publish content. We publish loads of content. In fact, for these 100 dealers, we've published 160,000 pieces of content out to these networks. The average dealer has 70 networks with us. What does that do? Strategy and implementation is what creates results. The system is, again, the necessary evil. The website is the necessary evil. The strategy behind what you do with it, that's what matters. This is the difference between I'm on local directories and my information is accurate versus our clients who can say I'm on local directories and my phone rings because of it and I get new businesses because of it. I make more than I spend because of it.
To your point, Jen, features versus benefits is to tactics versus strategy. And a lot of people get really excited because they feel accomplished. They're like, yeah, I'm doing the local listing. Yeah, I'm doing this or I'm doing that. And they're really just buying features. And even in marketing vernacular, you want to speak to the perspective of the customer, which is benefits. Like, how does this benefit me? A good example is, just random examples of a feature is we have 350 locations nationwide. A benefit, which a customer would look at and say, good for you. A benefit would be we have a location within 5 minutes of you to service your needs. And looking at strategy versus tactics, it's the same. When people are, and entrepreneurs that they don't know what they don't know a lot of times, and you're wanting them to understand the difference between these features, these tools that you kind of just throw at a problem versus a strategy of what tool to use when.
Absolutely. And this is, again, another scenario. We've got hundreds of examples. I'm on page 1 of Google. The question is for what? Where? What city? Not your company name. For what? For where? And if you're on page 1 of Google, do you look the best when they get there? How many reviews do you have on site? I'm showing this. These are 2 clients. We built both of these websites. This website is technically on top of these websites, but guess who's going to win the conversion? Both are our clients, but both have 2 different decisions that they've made. One's focused on generating reviews on site using a tool we recommend, a piece of software, and allows us to use that tool to optimize their reviews by page, and they're the ones getting the conversion. The other one's on their way there, but they've got a decision to make if they really want to compete in that environment. And that's where every single little piece matters. All right, you guys, well, we're running out of time. So we're going to move over. This kind of gives you an idea on what you guys can do next. Number 1, if you like the webinar and you want to have a strategy session, absolutely complimentary. Our team's not real busy in the summer because you guys are swamped. So now's a really good time to get moved to the top of the list. If you guys want us to go do a complete analysis from a digital standpoint, here's some options to convert. We're going to use the same language that we would with you guys when we're telling you. So number 1, you guys can text the word webinar to 877-839-1122. What I'd recommend, take your phone out, take a picture of this screen right now. That'll give you. You can also chat with our bot online at ciwebgroup.com or HVAC marketing websites. We do have a traditional phone and we answer it. Again, same number as chat. You can also email us in case that's what you like. You can schedule directly online. And if you want to attend a live workshop in your area, we do offer 2-day workshops. You can either vote on having us come to your area to do that workshop, or you can check our training schedule out. And you can do that on either of these sites above. With that, this is what I mean by convert, is I want to give everybody who loves the phone and you're passionate about human interaction, give us a call. If you love email, send an email. If you want to text, shoot us a text. If you want to go dig around and research a website because you have an analytical mind, then do that as well. All together, we practice what we preach. We really appreciate you guys taking time with us today. And thanks so much, Ms. Catherine. And Chris, thank you so much for all of your content contribution as well.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. So just a couple quick reminders. If you have any questions, go ahead and use your chat box. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions. I did want to mention you will receive a follow-up email a little bit later today with the link to the webinar recording. So if you'd like to refer back to it or share it with someone who might be interested, I know there was a lot of information to digest, so you might want to review it. You will have that in your email a little bit later today. And I did want to mention also there is a post-webinar survey, so feel free to provide some feedback. We do always look forward to hearing from you. And with that, I do not have any questions waiting. So I did also want to mention, in addition to all of the options on your screen, which are wonderful, you can always reach out to me at Goodman Partners Network at goodmanmfg.com if you have any other questions or concerns. And Jennifer, I wondered if there's anything you'd like to say in closing today.
Have a wonderful day, and let's start prepping for the next season. Thanks everyone for the time.
All right, great. Well, thanks to Jennifer and for Chris and to Chris for bringing us this presentation, and for everyone who took time out of your busy schedule, whether you're here live now or later on the recording. We do appreciate your time and look forward to talking to you all on another webinar soon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Bye-bye.